All right. S&S number 70. Firmly out of the late 60s and the numeric stuff in there. And right here on 70. And that's a nice number. I like 70. 70 was about how long people live in general, no matter where you live, when things were going kind of good. I wonder what it is now. I remember being taught that in school. So, things are settling down nicely here. My wife and I have had a couple of days where she's been able to get some things done that she had on the back burner because, you know, front burner issues have taken priority. But right now her sister and brother-in-law are down here, up here, and you know, boots on the ground stuff like Tina does every single day. And so she's out getting some things done that she's been waiting to get around to doing, and that's good. While she's out picking up, you know, the daily necessities. And Wednesday's check day, so we don't have too terribly long to wait to hand it all back to people in the bills and live on what's left. And that's all good. We're so used to living like that $400 appearing out of nowhere can feel like a month of manna from heaven. I'm just saying. And these things have happened to us and have contributed to my belief system and faith because they always seem to happen unasked for and right on time. I don't ignore not asked for and right on time. And that has to do with God as well as the devil. Because some people will completely show you who's their boss. And then you can work from there. You can work right from there, from this point forward. Oh, okay. Well, I'm going to go back to my boss. I don't even talk about your boss because in a way that sort of honors the existence of your boss, just talking about it. And this is only with people that are right on time, probably when you don't need it, with a really substantial ask or bad thing or falsehood. You know, and I agree with my dad when he says there's two sides to every story, right? Because the way, and I agree with him. I used to wonder about that. You know, I mean, if something happened, it happened, right? But a deeper way to think about this, you know, when Dad said, well, there's two sides to every story, he's right. Let's say there's an automobile accident and a pedestrian gets hurt too, okay? But not killed. And there are 4 people, one of them on each of the sidewalks at the corners around this intersection where this has occurred. And every one of them is telling the God's honest truth when they say, I was there and I saw the accident with my own eyeballs, right? But every one of them is going to see what's visible, and every one of them is going to have a different aspect of the accident which is occluded, okay? It's occluded from them, which means it's not visible. You can't see the door on the other side of the car from where you're standing and say, oh yeah, the handle was broke off it. you can't say that from a certain perspective because there's no way you would have seen that. Okay? So, the word occult means the same. It comes from the same thing as occlude, which is the verb, which means to be not visible or to be made not visible, right? Like if you know something is true, and here's an opportunity to set the record straight in a conversation with some people who seem to believe that something else happened, you jump in with the truth. Here's a group of people that are all kind of deluded, right? You can fix it. So that's good, because the truth has been occluded. They didn't get to see the other side of the car from where they were standing. It all sounded so exactly right, except the part about how could you be talking about something that you could not possibly have seen? I'm thinking about my dad now, right? Because Ma's gone. It's 2 weeks yesterday. It puts me at peace to know she's at peace, gotta say. It puts me at peace to know that she and Dad set up all their final stuff in advance and paid for it, and that's just a done deal, okay? And it puts me at great peace to know that a lot of people loved her so much, right? And I keep hearing this. Of course, it's slowing down. But stuff's still popping in the mailbox, and texts are coming across every day or every other day. And it's beautiful, it doesn't make me sad. And the weather's cooling down some here in North Carolina. It's been terrible. Awful. I can only remember, back in 79 or 79, 80, that summer and winter there, when I went down to work in Houston, Texas, with my friend Dave, and it was so hot that you could get a brand new pair of sneakers, right, like Converse sneakers, put them on, walk about a half mile. Let's say you walk to a place where you can buy a 12-pack of beer, okay, because you don't have a car, and you walk there, and when you get home, your feet are real hot in them sneakers. You just want to get them off. And you look at the bottom, and the tread is mostly gone. Like it's been sanded off. But it wasn't. It was melted. And just the weight of walking on them squashed away the tread. And that year, a lot of states that touched Texas, as well as Texas, you can look this up. I mean it. People becoming unalive in their cars at traffic lights in Texas, I think Oklahoma, perhaps Arizona, and maybe southern Nevada, okay? Back around 79, 80. Terrible, super hot summer. So when it gets terrible, super hot here in North Carolina, I think about old people, because we have some living parents that are up there, And if it's putting me down for a nap every day during the worst part of the day, I can only imagine how it feels to people that are 20, 30 years older than me. Yep. Thinking a lot about my dad and stuff he says, and looking at it through a different lens, right? I mean, we owe that to anybody, is to think about something they said through a different lens, right? And I'm always on the lookout for cool quotes. Somewhere or another, there's a live show I did where I explain this song I have called Diner Wisdom, and the whole song is entirely stuff I overheard loud old people saying in various diners and places where old folks go get coffee and a biscuit in the morning. Old folks like me who like to go out and or at least have a coffee and a biscuit in the morning. I was able to make a whole song out of these things that I had just jotted down on napkins and stuff because, well, there's a zeitgeist, that we live in. And so a lot of people are in some way, shape, or form kind of talking about the same thing through their lens of experience, right? So I was able to get this really cool, long, kind of jazzy song. It's not constructed like anything else I've ever written. That's for sure. And I'm always on the lookout for cool quotes, And sometimes, in just a matter of days, I'll get a couple of quotes that are so thought-provoking that I get a song out of it somehow, right? And I heard a Joni Mitchell quote, and I heard a Vadi Bosham quote. Vadi Bosham being the Christian apologist preacher who's got a lot to say about people that don't apologize, that are, quote, churched, unquote. He's the kind of preacher that I love that a lot of people don't. He reminds me of James Earl Jones with a beard and that kind of commanding teaching voice and inflection and stuff like that. Which is not to say that Vadi Bosham is trying to sound like James Earl Jones at all. No, entirely different. But the I can't stop listening to this guy factor is entirely there, right? And Joni Mitchell. The moment a Joni Mitchell song comes on the radio, if I'm in a vehicle with somebody, I ask them to be quiet. For the same reason. Joni Mitchell is a voice that I will always choose to listen to over all others unless there's something really pressing going on. Okay? I mean it. And so to get a Joni quote and a Vadi Bosham quote that both connect with my eternal amazement that the poop emoji ever became a thing. Okay? I taught art. I've been making art since 1961. According to my mom. Oops, I gotta stop. This phone's ringing. So here we are. Next day, picking up where I left off yesterday, where I was talking about a Pastor Vadi Bosham quote and a Joni Mitchell quote. And how both of them relate to my thinking about an idiom. I used to teach idioms when I was a school teacher. I didn't teach this one because these were middle school kids. But the students really liked learning about idioms, right? And the idiom, "you can't polish a turd," has cracked me up since the first time I heard it. I guess when I was younger, the word turd was what made me laugh. But according to available resources, it's a pretty new expression. It's only been around about 50 years. I figured that the Brits would take credit for it and say, nah, Chaucer said it. And he might have. But let me get to these two quotes. They came right after each other. Just sort of popped out of things that we were watching or studying. So the Joni Mitchell quote that I really like talks about people who are trying to polish a turd, okay? And Joni says that such people, they muddy the waters so that they appear deep. How many people do we know? I'm eating a biscuit, sorry. How many people do we know muddy the waters in order to appear deep, when in fact they're very shallow-minded people? It's a great quote. My experience has been that people will stop somebody with a good idea simply because they didn't think of it themselves. And they can't imagine a good idea coming from anyone else. So they muddy the waters to appear deep. And sometimes the good thing never happens. Similarly, Vadi Bosham said that such people let that truck go by. Such people will resort to, quote, shaving off the edges of the truth in order to be liked, unquote. These are some great quotes. I'm not the kind of person that walks around thinking about excrement all the time. But since the advent of the internet and the emoji, somebody apparently insisted on an emoji of one of those smiling, soft serve looking poops. You know, the perfect coiled cone with a happy face on the front of it. I don't believe that human beings can actually produce a turd that looks like a large Dairy Queen soft serve above the edge of the cone. I think dogs can, you know, if they've had the right diet, but I don't think so. I don't think that the human body is capable of producing a poop emoji looking poop. And you know, I was still a school teacher when the poop emoji was charging along like a vocabulary word in the minds of young people. Poop emojis would crop up in their written work. Elementary school kids, the poop emoji would show up in their art projects sometimes. I mean, when I was a kid, it was really common for someone to say that you were full of shit, right? Or crap. And yet I never really quite understood the poop emoji. The appealing turd. It's kind of funny. I suppose a person could get all metaphysical about it and say that that smiling turd represents the fallen human race, not knowing that they've fallen. So I know I'm just kind of rambling around a whole lot, but to kind of bring this on home, right? I'm thinking about that fella that walked up to Jesus and explained that he was really quite a follower of the laws of Moses, really pious. He's really dialed into his religion. And is pretty convinced of his own shininess when he speaks to the Lord and asks him, I've done this, I've done this, I've done this, I've done this, I've lived like this, I've done all these things that the law demands. I want to follow you. I want to inherit that kingdom you speak of, Lord. How can I do that? And right there in Scripture it tells us The simple thing, the simple concept that applies to people who are completely tied down by belongings, wealth, materialism, and stuff. Scripture warns that when the ball drops, don't go back down in your house to get your stuff. Be completely watchful and ready. Obey. But most folks who spend Sunday mornings in churches have heard the story of the rich man who went away sad. How many people went away sad after talking to Jesus besides the Pharisees and the disobedient, right? Other people were amazed, found him wonderful. But when Jesus tells this wealthy man, probably a church deacon, go sell all your stuff, give it to the poor, and then follow me. Easy. It's 3 steps. Sell your stuff, love your neighbor with the earnings, and then follow me. You don't need that stuff to follow Christ. And that rich man, that lawyer, that doctor, that judge, that merchant, that shiny obeyer of the law, he couldn't do it. All the things he'd done apparently were in pursuit of that stuff, not in pursuit of any kind of salvation. And when he walked away sad, that's the moment that an individual realizes that they're an unpolishable turd, right? This expression, I looked it up. I AI'd it twice, once with a question mark on the end of my question, and one without a question mark on the end of my question. So let's talk a little bit about the new Google search with AI. A single punctuation mark can change your answer. With no question mark, I got that Jerry Lewis said it first. Then I put a question mark on it and searched again. And the result here says that it's often attributed to Jeffrey Stokes, who used the term in his 1976 book, Star Making Machinery Inside the Business of Rock and Roll, according to Slate magazine. The phrase is used to express the idea that some things are inherently so bad or flawed that no amount of effort can improve them. He's credited with the first written citation, although the expression may have existed in spoken language earlier. Another instance of the phrase being used is in a 1980 newspaper article referring to the Oakland A's minor league farm scene, where they get their players from, and the meaning of the phrase is consistent. It conveys the futility of trying to make something of poor quality presentable or acceptable. Something that I've really successfully avoided until right now with these 70-some bits of content that I've created is using one of those videos to make a political point, because I don't trust politics, okay? Not even a little bit. Whichever party you cleave to wants you to cleave to that party and nothing else. And the cleaving to either party essentially forces you to leave the faith. Do you hear what I'm saying? You literally have to, consciously or unconsciously, depart from your faith in order to cleave to political idolatry. And here at this point, we're already violating some of the first 4 commandments, which are about our relationship with God. You can try to polish a turd, and like P.T. Barnum said, you can fool some of the people some of the time, but you can't fool all the people all the time. 2025 is a year that should be the year of this particular idiom, right? Because as someone that cannot, like you, avoid current events and news because of just the ubiquity of media, what we've been watching since last November is really attractive, smiling pile of excrement, and literally millions of people trying to polish that turd. It's not getting any shinier, and a lot of folks are getting their hands dirty. Remember Out Damned Spot from Shakespeare. Not only can you not polish a turd, but you can't expect yourself not to get blemished when you try.